Okay, it's early in the morning, and I know my eye is red. I was taking a shower and got some soap all in it. Now it's coffee time. Coffee time, trying to wake up with my red eye. But it's all good. It's all good. Don't even pay attention to it. Make sure you join our Discord, which is going to be down in the description box below. We talk about a lot of different things. This Ask HershNoeie is really, really easy. And it's actually past time for me to do an update on my thoughts about Tacoma. But their question was simply, HershNoeie, what are your thoughts now that you've lived in Tacoma for a bit longer? What are your thoughts about Tacoma? You had made a video before, but it seemed like you hadn't lived there that long. Now that you've lived there for quite some time, what is it that you love about Tacoma? That's a great question, right? That's a really, really good question. I would say that in the entire Puget Sound, excuse me, coffee, there are not very many places I'd rather live. I'm just being honest. There are many reasons as to why I like Tacoma, and um, first, let me discuss the that this is not just saying that other places are not nice places or great places. There are many great cities and communities around here, and in the Puget Sound region. I mean, I'd rather choose any city in the Puget Sound region than to live back in Indiana, for example. You know what I mean? Like, I'd pick any. But, just being honest. But this also, when I say Tacoma, I'm talking about people in the South Sound, or as far up as Kent and which isn't that far up, but Kent and Sumner and all those places. So I'm including that too when I say people. One would be the people. The one of the big things that drew me to Tacoma. First, I came down here because I've known about Tacoma for quite some time, and I had done some research and different things like that before I even knew that we were going to even live here. But when I finally got to Tacoma, the people were one of the big selling points for me. The kids are up, and so they're going to be bananas. Today is their last day of school for a little bit because it's going to be Thanksgiving, so they're going to be crazy. They've already met once with their teacher virtually, so they know their day is almost done. But anyway, so it was the people. I tell the story because it was very impactful. It was Mother's Day, and there were so many people who saw us on the street telling Noelle Happy Mother's Day. I go out to my car, and there was a lady walking by, and she said, "Hey, good morning." I've seen people, another lady with she used to push her kids around in a stroller. It's been a couple of years now, so I don't think the kid's in a stroller anymore. But she would always say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like, it's by far more friendlier than up in Seattle. I never had anybody say anything. But here it's the people. I think that overall it is the people. They're very supportive. Not only are they supportive in terms of local businesses, you see a lot of people rallying behind a lot of local businesses. When they announce a new business is coming, you don't get a lot of negative. You hear a lot of positive. People are like, "Oh, that's great. That's wonderful." They talk about, "Oh, we need to go there. We need to do this." It's just very, very much I don't want to say family because that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's very much a small city in terms of the way people kind of treat you, but you're in a medium-sized city, if that makes sense. It's really and truly nice. Now that doesn't mean everyone's that way. It doesn't mean that you don't have people who aren't who aren't mean and rude and everything else. But by and large, there are so many people that are very helpful, friendly, nice, kind, good, positive vibes. It's just it's you don't feel like you're an alien. You don't feel like you're isolated. And I think that when people move to Seattle and they're coming from someplace else and they move there, and it's very much, you feel very alone when you move to Seattle. It you feel kind of like, dang, no one is. It's like it's cold. I don't mean temperature wise. It's just no one's really super friendly. I'm not saying people aren't nice, but like no one's trying to really say much to you. You know, it's kind of hard for some people to make friends. Other people, I have a friend that I know from New Mexico who can make friends anywhere. He's just very outgoing, very very outgoing. But for some people, it's hard. It's just not, and I think that's where people get that whole vibe of like, oh, I don't like the area because of that experience. But I can say that down here, it's not the case whatsoever. And not only that, I've been to Puyallup plenty of times, and it never had that issue either. You know, it's just very much a welcoming, friendly place. So the people are going to be the big shining point in that. The other part is Tacoma is playing catch up because it has been behind, I feel, for so long that it's playing catch up. It's catching up to where it should be. So you get to see a lot of the things that were supposed to happen but never did happen for some reason or another. And it's great seeing how all the parks are starting to develop. And parks is going to be one of those things that are up there. I'm not big into going to parks myself, but I have kids, so obviously they love it. The fact that we have a city that invests heavily in parks, it has a history of that, of having a lot of parks. You know, I've watched this documentary that talked about a guy who built a park at the end of a road, so then they built a roundabout around the park. I don't know if that park is still in existence. I'm still trying to find it. But the number of parks that we have, the size, the quality of those parks, I've never been in a city that has that many parks. I just haven't. I mean, just like close together. It's like there's parks everywhere, and they're large. You know, when I talk about Swan Creek, and when I talk about Dunes Peninsula, and excuse me, and I talk about Point Defiance, like these are big parks. The history behind Point Defiance, it was proposed to be a military base. So it's just there's a lot of cool things that really does make Tacoma feel like you're in a tiny city, but you're not. Like there's so much nature around. You know, there's so much that you often kind of forget. Like if you go over there, especially towards Point Defiance or even in Point Defiance, it feels like you're out in the middle of uh, uh, I don't know, like in the middle of a huge forest someplace. You know, like you're in a rural part of the state. And then you quickly realize, no, you're not. You know, you're actually in a pretty decent sized city. So I love that part of it. Just the number of parks, the quality of parks, the size of the parks, the diversity of those parks. It's just really nice. I do wish though that we had more splash type little things. That's one thing that you don't see here. I don't know why. Maybe because of the weather. I don't know. But you don't see a lot of those little water squirty park type things where you can walk through and the water shoots up every place. You don't see a lot of that here. I do wish we had one of those. But other than that, I have to say the parks are really nice. Um, the other thing is just the views of the mountain, views of the water. I'm going to combine those two because you're always going to see one or the other, right? Or both. I've been to many different parts of Tacoma, and every part that I've been to, you pretty much will see either the mountain, so Mount Rainier, or water, right? And so it is that kind of sold me too. The fact that you have so much nature, but you're still in a decent sized city. The industrial vibe you have. That used to be a point that people used to ridicule. First, it was a point to be celebrated. You know, if you know the history of Tacoma, it's more or less a city that, you know, the railroad was a big point. It made the city grow, and then all of the industrial parts around Tacoma, and the fact that everybody wanted to make some sort of a port of their own at one point. Old Town, that was, you know, like ports and stuff. And so people made fun of Tacoma back in the day because of the smelter plant, which, you know, at one point was a big bonus to have, and all the mills and everything, and the smells. But now the city has cleaned a lot of that up, but you still get that gritty industrial vibe. When you look at downtown, you know, it's juxtaposed from buildings to the industrial area. And then, of course, you see the port. So the whole tide flats and then the city, it just gives you this vision of a progressive industrial city. You know what I mean? So I like seeing that vibe. One of the cool viewpoints to look down, and there could be others, but to really get a good glimpse of downtown, the Dome District, the port, and all of that, is on a bridge on Pacific Avenue. And I don't know if that bridge has a name, but there's a hill right there, and that bridge goes really, it's really high up. And then you're looking down at the city, and it is just such it sold me. It sold me on it. Now, when we first came to Tacoma, we spent most of our time downtown, obviously. We ventured over to the Dome District and kind of drove around and different things, went on the wrong streets and all that. But eventually we started to venture away from downtown a little bit and started to go into different areas and just start falling more and more in love with it. The vantage points that you get, because the city, you know, downtown is sitting low, obviously, it's close to the water. So everything else is much higher, and then just looking down, it's amazing just seeing what the vantage point is. It's just awesome. One of the other big things that I love is that it's not super crowded. You know, the city, it's getting more and more so that way. But, you know, we don't have to sit and fight for parking. We don't have to deal with, you know, a ton of people on the street. Do I wish it was a little more busier downtown in terms of people walking around? Sure. But on the same token, I mean, the city is just not this, sorry, coffee. It's not like Seattle where you walk out and boom, there's just a crowd of people. You know, you don't get that. So I like it. I mean, to me, that's very appealing. People will dog Tacoma and talk about, oh, the crime. And I've told you many a times before, like any city, there's crime. I went through and did a whole video talking about crime in different parts of the country, places that you wouldn't think about, Beverly Hills and different places. And, you know, there's always going to be that. I think the big part of it is, as long as it depends on who you're around. And for most people, they're not going to be around stuff that's going to be a problem, so you don't have to really worry about it as much. Not saying that you can't be a victim if you are living your life, you know, drama free. That still happens, but it's much less the case, and that's anywhere. So when people tell you that, it's usually based off of a stereotype. And Tacoma has done a very good job. The city, I will have to say, has done an extremely good job of not even worrying about that. If you notice, folks in Tacoma pride themselves on their past as well as their present, and look forward to the future. That's something that I really and truly admire about the city, and that I look at and reflect on myself, that the city itself has been viewed so negatively from people in different parts of the country, and even from people here in this area, in this region, for so long. And that people who live here actually like the city so much, love the city so much that they don't care. They talk about keep Tacoma fierce. Grit city. That the city leadership even likes those terms because it shows a sense of resilience that even given the troubles of the past, the city has actually like bulldozed through those things. And there's still issues. There's still challenges. But the fact that the city can still just pulverize through. During the pandemic, I did a video that I didn't even get a chance to upload. But even given the uncertainty right now, there's been so many restaurants that have opened. There have been a few staples that have closed, long-term places that have closed, but there have been so many projected to open. Some from Seattle moving down here that have opened just a few days ago, a few weeks ago, a few months ago. There's been several that have actually come down here and opened. There's been a new wine shop that has opened, where you can go in and sip. I have to check that out. There's the hotel, the Marriott Hotel, the big giant 22-story building opened. A new apartment building over in Point Ruston opened. The Tacoma Flats, that's a little redevelopment, but opened during this time of uncertainty. So for that to still keep happening, and the rumor for Amazon to, still want to occupy 100,000 square feet down here in Tacoma, and they're looking. For that to still happen shows that Tacoma has held its head up high, regardless of the difficulties, regardless of the naysayers, regardless of some businesses turning their nose up at us. The city has continued to persevere. And so that by itself, there's no other city in this region that's done that has that negative viewpoint thrown at it and that negative stereotype. There's not one city here that has that. And there's not one city here that has overcame a lot of those obstacles. So that is what I also love about Tacoma, that can-do grit type of mentality. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's one of the reasons why I brag about the city so much, is because I know that there's that history, that legacy. It's a negative stain, but the fact that the city and a lot of the residents here are like, whatever, that's not, that's our past. And look at what we've done to get where we are today. So I love that. Our downtown is being redeveloped. We don't get, it's kind of like when you're a brand new recording artist and you do the whole album yourself. You don't have any, famous, big time, big league artist on there. You're on there yourself and you become a huge success. That's a lot better than having an album full of heavy hitters. And I feel like that's what Tacoma is. Tacoma is that one artist that did all that hard work, did all of the marketing themselves, all of everything themselves, and still is batting pretty high up there. It didn't have to have the help of big names and big companies and big this and big that. It did it itself. So I love that. So, and that's one of the reasons why I said, like, I don't feel like I could live any other place here other than in Tacoma. There are a few places. I'll take that back. There are a few places that I would, but not because of the fact that I dislike Tacoma. It's just that I could see myself living there. There's other places that I'm not so much of a fan of, but again, I would choose any city here versus going back to the Midwest. When it comes to some of the other things that I actually like about here, the fact that there are more things to do as a parent, I like that. At first, there was not a lot of that. Now there seems to be more of that. And I haven't talked about it recently, but Topgolf, who knows what's going on with that, right? But It was supposed to go over there in the Dome District, and if that were to have happened, or will happen, that's going to be amazing. Now, I'm not a big golfer, but that's something that is very appealing to me. But if you just look around at some of the things that are going on here, the brewery district is a good example. It's a great place for adults. Even if you don't drink, it's great. You know what I mean? It's a great place to go. It's got a good social vibe to it. It's not super crowded. It's not going to be super crazy. You know what I mean? It's not like, that's one of the things I like about breweries, excuse me, is the fact that it's not like your typical bar. If you're not into the bar scene, you have a lot of people who are seasoned that would prefer to go to a brewery because it's a little bit different, especially when you have kids. You can easily bring kids in there. It's a different thing, right? It's not, you don't have to feel the pressure of, oh, I gotta order food and the food's expensive. It's just a different vibe. And the fact that we have one giant district of that, and yet there's breweries not only in that district, but all around, that's cool. McMenamins, again, I have to point out, has been a huge lifesaver for me. Some people don't like McMenamins because they feel like it's too crowded in there. But again, it shows the need for more stuff like that. McMenamins, which is like a 7-story building that they rebuilt or remodeled, that structure stays full. Prior to the sickness, that building stayed packed with people. And I agree, it was hard to move around. It was you would get very sweaty because it's just, there's so many people, there's so much breath in the air, so I can see why it wouldn't be a good idea to open that now. But yeah, it's great because it can hold concerts. It's got a concert venue in there. It's got many different themed restaurants and bars. It's just a really cool place to go. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, are some of the things overpriced? Sure. But one of the things I like from there is the Terminator Stout. They have a beer called the Terminator Stout. It's just, I just can't tell you. And I have some in there. I'm trying to hold off on. Noelle went and got me a growler of that and then a growler of Kris Kringle. I like both. The Terminator Stout, it's hard to beat, in my opinion. It's really, 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 really good. Even Noelle likes that, and it's a dark beer. And we talked about this. She says she likes dark beers. I didn't know that. I thought she didn't really care for them much, but whatever. Kris Kringle, she hates. I like it. It's very hoppy, so that's the reason why she doesn't like it, but it's really nice, a nice beer. But anyway, regardless, I can talk about beer all day. But the fact that they have a lot of different things there, they have like a little bit of a mini roastery there where they actually have coffee. So it's that type of thing is what we need more of here. But I like the fact that we do have more things for adults with kids, that type of thing. There should be more of it. The fact that we do repurpose buildings. I mean, from Tacoma, the University of Washington, Tacoma, they've done that. There's been many others that have repurposed buildings. The McMenamins, they repurposed that old building. The old City Hall is being repurposed by Surge Tacoma, and it's going to be a nice, right now, they actually put their head down and started working on that and really redoing it so they can be, up and ready to go. It's stuff like that. You don't have to keep building, brand new stuff. The fact that you can take old structures and repurpose them and keep a lot of the charm, keep the things in Tacoma that make it Tacoma. I mean, if we tore down all those things and built something brand new, McMenamins could have did that. The old Elks Lodge, they could have tore that building down and built something brand new, and it probably would have saved them a lot more money. You see what I'm saying? But people would have had a heart attack if you did that. Because, and I don't think they could. I think it's on the historical register. I'm not sure. But, it would take away from the city. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much history in that building. You know, there's people that talk about what they did as a kid and, you know, all of this type of stuff and, you know, the pool and everything that the building had. So to tear down a part of history would just be horrible. And the fact it sat for so long was horrible. Now the old city hall, which you've seen on so many different postcards, is being repurposed. We're just not a city that goes the easy way out or needs a huge, big bunch of investments from, you know, other places to consider ourselves a city. If we get those, that's great. But we also look from within. And so having those types of developments really and truly is also what I like about the city. There's plenty others. But I'm sitting on 25 minutes and I've already listed some of the things that I love about here since living here. And I can go on and on and on. That is one of the reasons why the city keeps growing, is because people start to do a little bit of research. And you know, recently I went online and on our Discord I posted the history of Tacoma. There are two videos. One talks about Point Defiance, the other talks about the city of Tacoma. And if you watch those, it really and truly helps you understand the city a whole lot more and appreciate it a whole lot more. And, you know, is there a great history in some aspects? No. There's certain things that should have never happened. There are other things that had they not happened, we wouldn't have the city that we have today. So anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you join our Discord, which is down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.